Ladies and gentlemen, the Philadelphia Eagles are 3-0. A win is a win is a win, and yesterday came in pretty impressive fashion. Jordan Davis running at the length of the field, a blocked field goal, taking it all the way for a touchdown, a big man's dream to complete that victory right there. Very excited about that. I'm here. My name is Sean Barnard. I'm here with my guy Sam Oshtry to talk about that Eagles victory, everything else that went down in the NFL world this weekend, as well as a Kawhi Leonard take that I got to get off my chest as the dust begins to settle with that entire situation. Before we dive too deep into anything, Sam, how we doing, my guy?
Great, great. I mean, when the Eagles can win games like that, there's a lot to celebrate, a lot to take, a lot to learn from and take away. But one of the more electric Eagles wins in a long time, like non-playoff wins, regular season wins, a comeback like that, 26 unanswered. That was incredible. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not the most animated game watcher, I would say. I'm a pretty reserved, sit back, take it in. Yesterday was one where when they blocked that field goal, got me off the couch, got me fired up with that. So I want to start exactly there. It was not a seamless first half by any means. -1 total yards coming into halftime for the Philadelphia Eagles. They're the passing game non-existent, but they did not quit. They did not give up, and honestly looked like the best version of this Eagles team that we've seen all season in that second half. So when you're evaluating that game from an Eagles perspective, what is your number one takeaway, Sam? How do you feel about how yesterday went down?
I think the number one takeaway has to be the passing offense in the second half, right? And how reluctant they were to let Jalen Hurts throw the football consistently. I mean, they had 0 passing yards in the first half. And even though that Jalen Hurts had, I think it was 18 passing yards, but it's interesting, side note, that if he was sacked twice for 18 yards. So he technically
Which I hate that they do that, by the way.
I know, but it counts for his passing yards, but as a team passing yards, 0 because of those sacks. Which
and
is
in college,
interesting.
they do it for rushing, by the way. Like,
Yeah, it would make more sense for it to be for rushing, I feel like.
yeah.
But
Nonetheless, go
whatever.
ahead.
Regardless, he had zero passing yards, or the team had 0 passing yards in the first half. And when you're in such a deficit, you have no choice but to start throwing the football, but to start airing out the football. And that's what they did in the second half. And A.J. Brown, it's what we've been talking about all week, even with the 2-0 start that the Eagles had. The biggest criticism for them was their passing offense and not feeding A.J. Brown, getting him involved. And he, of course, unleashed in the second half because Hurts has no choice but to throw the football, and the Eagles have no choice but to throw the football. So I was so impressed with Jalen Hurts, that passing offense in the second half, and of course, just the resolve of this team. But it starts with the fact that everyone was criticizing the passing offense, and rightfully so. After yesterday's first half, and the first 2 weeks, people were booing in Lincoln Financial Stadium, and then when they're forced to pass, they prove to everyone they are capable of it. So I think that also tells Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patula as play callers that they should be passing the ball on early downs more often. And yeah, Saquon, you have great offensive line. Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the league. You're going to lean on him when you need to, especially to kill clock and extend drives. But you also can pass on early downs because of the weapons you have on the outside and because of how much trust you should have in Hurts as a passer.
Yeah, it felt great to finally see Jalen Hurts unleashed a little bit. That it feels like there's been so much kid gloves to start this season for how this offense is being really play called. Like, I think this is a Kevin Patullo conversation. And I always take a little bit more stock. Like, the media stuff's interesting. Jalen Hurts is obviously sort of a vault for getting information out of that. He's going to answer in poems. He's not going to give you what you want at the press conference. I thought it was interesting that him walking off the field. So this was an interview, not where he had it, not after he had his second to collect himself and, put on his Jalen Hurts persona and step to the media. This was an interview on the field walking off yesterday. And he was asked about the victory. And the quote that Jalen Hurts gave was, quote, "We've played so many styles of football where in the first half, we've got to get out of this playing not to lose. We've got to come out aggressive and play our game. You saw our game in the second half." I do think that is a message from Jalen Hurts right now. And I think everyone in the offense feels it. This is a dominant, complete roster. This is from top to bottom. Every one of these individual players, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts himself, these are elite football players. Let them be that it does feel like there's a lot of this playing not to lose, that this team can just straight up beat teams. Let that be the case. I thought that was a loud message from Jalen Hurts to Kevin Patullo directly. And I do think we'll see some effects from it moving forward. That yes, Saquon Barkley is excellent. Yes, he ran for 2,000 yards, broke the all-time rushing record when including playoffs last year. There will be games where Saquon Barkley can carry this offense. That's not going to be week in and week out. When Jalen Hurts needs to carry this offense, he's completely capable of doing that. So let that be the case. And I think that was the message.
I wasn't as critical of Kevin Petula after the first couple of weeks because we saw this last year with Kellen Moore as the play caller early. We saw it with Brian Johnson when Nick Sirianni was calling plays at certain stretches. We saw all these trends of them being ultra conservative and maybe not letting Jalen Hurts throw the ball as much. And there's always been criticism about their passing offense. But as we saw last year, the personnel on this offense is so good that they can beat you in multiple ways, is what you just said. Like if you want to have a game where Saquon is going to have 200 plus rushing yards, you just feed him constantly. They're capable of that. They have the best offensive line in the league, which hasn't been as good. With rushing the football, but they were great in pass protection yesterday. Still, you have a great offensive line. You have the best running back in the league. You can lean on Saquon when you need to. You also had maybe the best wide receiver duo in the NFL in Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, obviously. You have Jahan Dotson. You have Dallas Goedert. You have such great weapons, and you have a really clutch quarterback who the best thing we've seen from Jalen Hurts over the last 2 seasons is how much he's limited his turnovers. His decision-making has gone to a whole new level since 2023, where he had a ton of turnovers as a high-volume passer. So that's the thing. It's that you can beat teams in so many different ways. And that's why I wasn't that upset with the passing offense the last couple weeks leading up to this week, because you saw it in the Super Bowl last year. Jalen Hurts aired the ball out. He was incredible. You saw it in key moments throughout last season that they were a run-heavy offense. But when they needed the passing game to show up, it did. So I wasn't concerned. And yeah, it was maybe at the first half, after the first half of this game yesterday against the Rams. But what you see in the second half was what the Rams were doing was they were playing underneath on a lot of these Eagles routes, and they were trying to limit short yardage gains where it's like 7-yard slants to AJ Brown or comeback routes or those type of stuff, and they were trying to limit that stuff. What you saw with the Dallas Goedert 33-yard completion down the field was that stretches the defense completely. So now the Rams actually have to be worried about Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 15, 20-plus yards down the field. And that changes how the Rams' defensive approach goes. What you saw after that moment, late in the third quarter, into the fourth quarter, was Jalen Hurts was hitting guys for 7, 8-yard gains on early downs. They had to throw the ball on early downs because they were trailing, and it was working because they put the top off the defense. These 7, 8-yard gains on first downs are what can make manageable second downs, manageable third downs, and that's how you move the chains. That's how they put drives together. So I want to see more of that going forward. But there's a lot to be encouraged by in the second half yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. And that's a good Rams team. Like, that is sure.
Great Rams team.
Yeah, they dug themselves a hole, but that wasn't like as embarrassing as I think it sort of has been talked about.
Let's just say this right now. When you bring up a great Rams team, they've won 9 of the last 12 games.
Yeah,
there are only 3 losses in that span to the Philadelphia Eagles, and they were also there. They probably would have won the Super Bowl last year if it wasn't for the Eagles. I thought they were the second best team in the league by the time the Eagles played them. They easily. I won't be shocked if they're in the Super Bowl this year. This isn't just a good Rams team. This is a great Rams team and a real NFC contender.
Yeah, certainly the team that gave the Eagles the biggest trouble throughout the entire playoff run. So I was not like as embarrassed by them falling behind as the way I think it was talked about. I did want to swing it in this direction though. So we've now had 3 games of this Eagles team that I think this second half was the closest that we've seen them look to their peak, but I don't know if we've quite seen it. And I do mean that on both sides of the football too. I thought the defense incredible in the second half yesterday. The blocks just from top to bottom, Quinyon Mitchell, elite stuff. I wanted to give them their flowers as well. But if I'm to phrase it to you like this, Sam Oshtry, we're making our power rankings right now. Where do the Eagles stack up in the NFL? They have not blown people away to this point. Are they still the top dog?
100% they're the number one team in the NFL. They just came off a Super Bowl win. They're 3-0. Yeah, the Cowboys might suck. Let's just be honest. I thought the Cowboys were going to be pretty good after week 1 based on how they compete with the Eagles. Cowboys might suck. Probably won't compete in the NFC East. I don't care the Chiefs' record, how they're playing right now. They went into Kansas City after beating them in the Super Bowl and got a win. And then they were playing an NFC contender in the Rams and trailed big and scored 26 unanswered points to win that football game at home. There's no one you can put. I don't get the Ravens, Bills. I don't want to hear it. Packers, obviously, not after yesterday. But I don't want to hear it that the Eagles are the number 1 team in the NFL, and there's a big gap between them and number 2 right now because they just find ways to win football games. There's been ugly moments. Second half against the Cowboys in that opener was ugly offensively. Yeah. There were some ugly defensive moments and offensive moments against the Chiefs. Obviously, the first half was disgusting offensively against the Rams. But when you have a team with that much resolve and that much resiliency and that much talent, because talent can't win you games just because you're talented. When you have resolve, resiliency, and all these things that the Eagles have, that's what's so impressive. And let's just give Nick Sirianni credit for a second, because he deserves more credit than he gets. And I know people have come around on him a little bit after people were calling for his job last season, but not enough. I mean, this guy's beat Andy Reid 3 straight times now. Not just beat Andy Reid, out-coached Andy Reid 3 straight times. That's a future Hall of Famer. Sean McVay, this brilliant offensive mastermind, the brightest mind to ever play football. Nick Sirianni's out-coached that guy 3 straight times for 3 straight Eagles wins. And yeah, you can say the roster is better. And of course, it starts at the top with Jeffrey Lurie and his ownership. Howie Roseman has built an incredible culture, and he's the one who puts this roster together. So all that's great. That's incredible. That when you have the better roster, it's easier to win football games, no doubt. More talent, better chance to win. Talent can't win you games solely just based on talent. You just can't. That's Nick Sirianni's culture that he's built, the will to win, the resolve, the never give up mindset when you're trailing as much as they did, 26 unanswered points. When Jordan Davis has in year 3 has finally, or year 4 it is maybe? I think it's year 4 actually.
Yeah.
It's year 4, how he's finally gotten himself into incredible shape where he can be an every down defensive problem and a menace. And of course, the 2 blocks are incredible. So Nick Sirianni deserves credit for building a culture. That's a culture win yesterday. You don't beat Sean McVay or Andy Reid 3 straight times without having incredible resolve and an incredible culture. And that's what Nick Sirianni's built. So you could talk about the play calling all you want. That was as impressive an Eagles regular season win as we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, 100% there. And yeah, he may not be your cup of tea for how he handles himself, Nick Sirianni, but at some point the results have to speak for themselves, man. This team just wins. Nick Sirianni just wins, and shout out to him. Two last questions here. Number one, give out a game ball for yesterday. So one guy on this Eagles team that you can give it to Jalen if you want to go that direction, if you want to dig deeper in the weeds. But if I were to ask you the number one guy that earned that game ball, who would you say?
I mean, it's got to be Jordan Davis, right? I mean, he made the play. He made the play, the block, and then the scoop and score. It goes all the way back. He was moving, and just
love it.
One of the worst covers you'll ever see for Rams backers.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow the Eagles cover that 3.5. You have to be just sick to your stomach if you had the Rams, because it really was the right play when you think about that game. But Jordan Davis deserves the game ball because not just for this game, but like I was just talking about, how he's gotten himself into such great shape. I mean, this was a guy that there were serious concerns about if he could be an every down defensive lineman because he was always constantly tired. And yeah, it's not going to happen in 1 or 2 years. And you don't just get yourself into shape in the off seasons throughout the entire season playing a ton of snaps. And that's what he's done this year. And it's been so incredible to watch his growth and his maturity. Which is so important when you're talking about him and Jalen Carter as the future of that defensive line. So yeah, Jordan Davis certainly deserves a game ball. Jalen Hurts also deserves a game ball. He was incredible. He was so good in the second half at feeding A.J. Brown, making the right reads, throwing the ball downfield when he needed to. Even the Devontae Smith touchdown, just a perfect read, perfect throw by him. So Jalen Hurts was incredible. Has he thrown an interception this year? I don't think so.
He's not. Nope.
That's the biggest thing with him. You win games if you win the turnover battle. We see that every week in and week out. If you can win the turnover battle, you're gonna have a damn good chance of winning the football game. We don't lose turnover battles because Jalen Hurts does not turn the ball over. He just doesn't. And that's what's so impressive about his growth. So Jalen Hurts and Jordan Davis are my 2 game balls.
Yeah, and he did have the fumble yesterday, so I will throw out that out there. But the interceptions, I mean, I can't say more about how impressed I was with Jalen Hurts yesterday. I do think those are the 2 obvious answers in Jordan Davis and Jalen Hurts. And I'll note the Jordan Davis thing. I think this is this year he's moving different. That started right from week 1 when there was the Jalen Carter ejection. That all of a sudden it was next man up. He's being thrown to the fire, being asked to play every down. Did a pretty nice job in week 1. And then yesterday, I think, was the best game of his NFL career to this point. I do think this is a trend. I think that he has turned a corner in the way that he is being effective on the field. And do think this is something moving forward. To throw one more name in the mix, I got to give Zach Bond some love, man. He's just incredible. This is the best linebacker play the Eagles have gotten in years. It's so crazy to me that this is a dude that Howie Roseman just found off the scrap heap, that he was a special teamer, a defensive end before he came to the Philadelphia Eagles. And this dude is just one of the better linebackers that I've ever seen. So little hat tip to Zach Bond. If you don't notice him, sometimes that means he's doing his job incredible.
It's really just crazy to think that he was a defensive end essentially. And that's what he was
Insane.
used for all of his career. Wasn't particularly effective. Vic Fangio and Howie Roseman identify this guy like, look, he's great in coverage too. Why don't we
He's
use
smart,
him more
man.
in coverage? Why
Yeah.
don't we use him more in coverage? And that's what he did last year, of course, and was a all NFL defensive team guy because of it. And he's been incredible this year too. But it's just crazy to think that those two guys identified this guy as, okay, he's great in coverage. Let's not use him as an edge rusher like all these other, like he was for most of his career. And what a scout by those guys. And Zach Bonds made them look like geniuses because he's been incredible.
Yeah, unbelievable stuff. So shout out Zach Bond. My last Eagles question before we take a trip around the NFL here. So we talked plenty about Jalen Hurts. To rattle off his stat line to this point. So against the Dallas Cowboys, he completed 19 of his 23 passes for 152 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions through the air. He did add 62 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns with his legs. Against the Kansas City Chiefs, 15 of 22 for 101 yards, added 15 rushing yards and a touchdown with his legs. And then yesterday, 21 of 32 for 226 yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 40 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown there. Next week, the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw them air the ball out a little bit more in the second half. This is a trend that we're going to buy into. And if I'm asking you to predict the Jalen Hurts stat line right now, what are you thinking for week 4?
Why do we always play the Bucs on the road? It's getting a little ridiculous at this point. This is the 4th straight matchup on the road, and I think it's gonna be 5 of the last 6 times we played them will be in Tampa Bay, and including that one playoff game when Tom Brady won the Super Bowl in 2021. They own us in Tampa Bay. I mean, They really own us. So that obviously I think that was week 4 last year when they just dominated us in Tampa Bay, and we headed into the bye from there. And of course, turned everything around after that. But just historically, they've just dominated us in Tampa Bay. So I don't have like the greatest expectations for the Eagles. I mean, hopefully it is like a revenge spot because they know that. I mean, they watched the tape of all those games in Tampa Bay since Nick Sirianni's been here, and they just have the Eagles' number for whatever reason. Not in the postseason, the Bucs aren't a threat, but they're consistently a perennial postseason team. So if I want to predict Jalen Hurts' stat line, I'd probably say like teams have moved the ball pretty successfully with the pass against the Bucs this year. Their defense isn't as good as people give it credit for just because Todd Bowles is their coach and he's a defensive mind, but it's not really been great. It's really been their offense and Baker Mayfield over the last couple of years that has been the catalyst for the Bucs' success. So to answer your question in a long-winded manner, just so I'm stalling here, I'll say like 170 yards.
Oh,
For
wow.
Jalen Hurts passing, probably around like 25 to 27 attempts and maybe like 30 rushing yards. I would say that would be a really good performance for him. You want to see no picks again because he's been really inconsistent with that. But I would say if that's his stat line, and they're letting him throw the ball a little more, which that would be an uptick in attempts, 25 to 27. I would be pretty content with that performance and content with the balance of the play calling too.
I think this is the week that the kid gloves fully come off and we get our first Jalen Hurts 300+ yard passing game. That I think they're going to let him spin it this week. He's totally capable. This offense is ready. Just let him throw the football, man. Like it felt refreshing in the second half to see deep shots, to let AJ Brown make some plays. I think we see that from start to finish next week, and that we finally see what this offense can look like in full form.
Yeah, I mean, you got to see the explosive plays early because, like I talked about, that takes the top off the defense, and then they can't play underneath these routes. And then you have these 7-8 yard gains to Devontae Smith, to Goddard, to AJ Brown, and those guys are so good after the catch too, so they can extend those plays. So you want to see them take deep shots early. I'm with you. I think they're definitely. I mean, they better pass the ball more than they did in the first half yesterday coming into this week. And I don't know how you watch the tape and think otherwise, and how ugly it was when they just weren't even attempting to pass the ball, and 0 passing yards in the first half. That's needs to be correctable. And it's easier to correct mistakes when you have a 3-0 record and you're winning games despite things being ugly for certain stretches. So it is the time to test some stuff out. You're still figuring out your identity. The Eagles didn't find their identity really until like week 7 last year. Even after that Browns game when they're coming off the bye, that was ugly. So you have time to find your identity. It's time to experiment with things as you're winning football games. So yeah, if Jalen Hurts throws the ball 30 plus times in a game where they're not trailing, because he threw the ball 32 times yesterday, but they were trailing by a lot, so he had to throw the ball. If it's a game where they're just having a lot more balance between the pass and run, then I'm fine with that because I trust Jalen Hurts as a passer at this point, which is not something I and a lot of Eagles fans probably said 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that Jalen Hurts is getting a chance to prove people wrong a little bit as he continues to do and dropping bars in the process. But let's move a little bit around the rest of the NFL. A lot of action that did go down yesterday, as well as, of course, the Baltimore Ravens and Detroit Lions facing off tonight to close down the slate. But let's start with the action that has already gone down. Sam, I want to throw the question to you. The most impressive victory of the weekend out of the games that have taken place, what would your answer be?
So, I mean, it's definitely the Eagles because of everything we talked about, but I'm going to make this an accept the Eagles question because we obviously just talked about the Eagles for 20 minutes here and led the show with that. So, accept the Eagles, 26 unanswered points. What a comeback. What a moment to close that game with Jordan Davis's block field goal. I'm going to say most impressive win, not including the Eagles, would be the Chicago Bears, who looked really good yesterday. And there's some other teams you could say, like the Chargers, maybe the Vikings, even with Carson Wentz. Fun to watch him ball out again. I don't know where you're going to go with this, but Caleb Williams was awesome. I mean, he had the third best quarterback performance of the season based on EPA per dropback. So that 0.61, third best quarterback performance of the entire season of anyone. He was incredible yesterday. Just to read a stat line, 298 yards, 4 touchdowns, 69% completion percentage. I believe his pass rating was in the 140s. He was awesome when he was making contested throws too. So he was running outside the pocket and delivering the ball accurately. But he was also making contested throws. I mean, think about that flea flicker, which was a bold, obviously interesting play call. But there was a guy in his face. I mean, he was in the pocket. He took a hit when he threw that ball. And it was a perfectly thrown ball. So he was making throws in the pocket under duress. And this was the best game of Caleb Williams' career as a passer. And yeah, it was against the Cowboys, who probably suck. We know their passing defense and defense as a whole definitely sucks. But still, this is still a big moment for Caleb Williams and the Bears, because this is what I've been saying as Caleb Williams has been getting so much criticism this year. You have to treat this like a rookie season for Caleb Williams. Last year was a disaster from a coaching perspective, from a developmental perspective, organizationally, the roster that surrounded him, the play callers, everything. It was just a disastrous year for Caleb Williams. He now gets Ben Johnson coming in. He gets a lot of help on the offensive line, better weapons. You have to treat this year like Caleb Williams' rookie season alongside Ben Johnson. And if any rookie put that performance up that he just did in week 3, we'd be talking about this guy as the future. So I don't care what defense it was against. I was so impressed with Caleb Williams. And it's not like he was bad the first 2 weeks. I mean, he wasn't good. But he wasn't bad either. Like, he was solid. He had good moments as a rusher, especially in week 1, I thought.
He was missing layups.
He missed some throws for sure. And I think you even saw that yesterday. He missed a couple throws. That's always going to be part of the Caleb Williams experience as he develops. But you still saw the raw talent yesterday, and that's why people loved him coming out of college. So I was really impressed with the Caleb Williams and the Bears. That's a big-time win for them.
Yeah, 100% there. And I'm trying not to be a Caleb Williams hater for the record here, that I do want to give the kid a fair shake and do think he's walked into as difficult of a situation as really you could ask for from a quarterback perspective there. That was a necessary win for the Chicago Bears yesterday. It was getting late early in Chicago if that was not going to end up being the case. And I think dropping to 0-3 would have really increased the panic meter there. It was nice to see from their direction there. Was surprised to hear that be your most impressive victory, though. My brain went a couple of different directions. I did want to show a little bit of love to the Minnesota Vikings, an absolute stomping, 48-10 over the Cincinnati Bengals there. But I'm throwing it right back to the Indianapolis Colts, man. Indiana Jones, Daniel Jones, like, it is unbelievable how real it looks. Like, some of these throws that he's making under pressure, just straight up like awesome quarterback play. Jonathan Taylor, the real deal, leading the league in rushing yards. And like, they have some weapons there. I don't know, man. I'm starting to talk myself to this Colts team being potentially dangerous. I think they're going to be a playoff team. They're 3-0. They look incredible. I'm walking away from another week of NFL football, very impressed by the Colts. And I thought there was no world where I would be thinking that 3 weeks into the season.
The Colts are your most impressive win over the Tennessee Titans?
41-20 in dominant fashion again.
The Titans suck. They stink. I mean, they could be the top pick in the draft again this year. And Cam Ward, it's not all his fault. I don't think he's looked great the last couple weeks, even though you liked what he saw week 1, but he has no help. So it's not all his fault. I'm not going to put all the blame on him. The Titans are awful. Look, I'm on the Colts train too, especially because the AFC South is really bad. The Texans are 0-3 now, and the Jaguars will be in the mix, but the Colts could easily win that division. And I agree. I mean, Daniel Jones has been awesome. The really only test they've seen so far is the Broncos. Of course, they should have really lost that game, but get blessed with a late flag. Again, another opportunity to kick a field goal and end up winning that game. But still, he's been incredible. I mean, he's had over 100 passer rating in all 3 games so far this season, and no turnovers, no interceptions, which is rare what we've seen from Daniel Jones during his Giants tenure. So I don't hate it. Like, I love Daniel Jones and this Colts team for the rest of the season. I think this is a real resurrection of his career in a new spot, new location, new play caller, all that stuff. We've seen that help a lot of quarterbacks in their second destination. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, we can go down the list. But best win of the Sunday slate. I mean, they play the Tennessee Titans.
How much better are the Dallas Cowboys than the Tennessee Titans?
A lot.
I think marginally. The
Cowboys
like the 20th best team.
They got blessed to beat the Giants, but I actually think the Giants are a little better than that 0-3 mark. I
agree.
I think their quarterback, they have serious quarterback issues, but he actually played really well against the Cowboys' awful defense. Seems like anybody can throw the ball well against the Cowboys' awful defense. And they compete against the Eagles like they did. It was a weird game, lightning delay. They were moving the ball really well in the first half against the Eagles. Of course, without Jalen Carter for the Eagles' defensive front. Still, though, the Cowboys are way better than the Titans to me.
I think barely. Like, I think they're a little better. I don't think it's that. I think that's pretty close. Also, by the way, you brought up the Giants. Just stop with this Jackson Dart handoff stuff, man. It's driving me crazy. Like, last night, it felt like the first time Russell Wilson found like a rhythm, found a flow of the game. It was immediate, like, all right, Jackson Dart, come in here and hand the ball off. He's yet to attempt a pass. He's literally just coming in, handing the ball off or running it himself. I don't understand what the point of this is whatsoever. There is no way you can convince me that this is beneficial to his trajectory as a quarterback. When he's ready, throw him in there. I don't get this nonsense of bringing him in to hand the ball.
Yeah, I'm with you. They're not fooling the defense at all, where it's like you think he's going to be a threat as a passer. Like based on their formation, exactly. The defense knows that they're going to be handing the ball off. Maybe it's just to appease the fans that are chanting, "We want Dart." Just for a couple snaps. It doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, it's a matter of weeks. Before the season started, when we did some preview stuff, I told you it's going to be that week. I think it's week 5 against the Saints. Would be the game that I think Jackson Dart's actually going to take the reins over, because that's an easy matchup to make a debut against an awful Saints team. So, and they play the Chargers next week. That is not an easy matchup. So I think Russ has one more week, but it's got to be hard for him knowing that his time is ticking and there's really nothing he can do at this point. Because even last week he balled out, 300 plus passing yards, was incredible.
450.
My bad. 450 passing yards. I shouldn't have discredited him like that. 450 passing yards against the Cowboys defense. Should have won that game. Ended up going to overtime. He throws an awful pick. And there it is. But Russell Wilson, I guess we're just going to go on a tangent for a second. We're really going to talk Giants that much. But he is one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen at this point of his career. Like, when he's throwing these deep balls, he's throwing them into triple coverage or at least double coverage every single time. What is he possibly thinking against the Chiefs last night? It makes no sense. He's literally just like back there in the pocket praying, saying, "Oh, it's just like a test to see how far he can throw the football. Let me just throw it up into triple coverage." It's not even near the receiver. He's not just hurting his own team, though, at this point. He did it to Malik Neighbors yesterday in a deep ball in double coverage that ended up leading to Malik Neighbors getting hurt with a shoulder injury. It's like he's not just hurting his own team. He's now hurting the Giants' best players. I think I don't have a problem with them going with Russell Wilson one more week, or at least I didn't before last night, just because it's a good opportunity for Jackson Dart to start against the Saints and make his debut at that point. You're gonna be 0-4 regardless. You're gonna be dogs in every single one of your games. But now we're at the point where Russell Wilson might be putting his own players at risk. He's that bad of a quarterback. So I don't understand how you can continue to start him at this point.
It is shocking to me, like the fall from grace that Russell Wilson has had. Like,
awful.
The Broncos tenure was incredibly brutal as well. I thought he was okay with the Steelers, and we're kind of back to basically the Russell Wilson experience is he's going to throw up a bunch of 50-50 balls deep down the field, and whoever's hand they fall in, that's whether it's a good game or bad game for him, that he's just going to take chances. I don't like full out hate that. Like, I think that there's
But Sean, these are not chances.
Yeah, you're right.
You see, he's literally it's not like, oh yeah, let my guy go make a play. Let me just throw the ball up. he's throwing into triple coverage. He's just
You're right.
going back off his back foot, tossing it up. He has a deep arm, and the ball travels for sure, 50 yards down the field, sure, but he's just throwing it up into triple coverage. Like, let me just see where this ball is going to land me. It's not like he's letting his guy go make a play. It's inexcusable. I mean, I'm like in shock of some of these throws. You don't see that anyone else in the league doing that. These are some of the worst throws I've ever seen last night.
The guy that it reminds me of is the dude that's third string on their depth chart, and Jameis Winston right here. Like, that's what it feels like.
Yeah, but even like he takes chances. Like, chances are fine. Like, let the air the ball out. Chances are fine. Russell Wilson is throwing the ball up into literal no man's land against three defenders in the area. Like, Jameis Winston makes chances, so he has a lot of turnovers. But like, this is unbelievable.
He's just got faith in his guys. Got to let him make plays. To the same point on the Giants quarterback, free Jameis Winston, man. Trade this dude to whether it's the Vikings, whether it's the Bengals, the Saints. Yeah, it would be sick to see him in Cincinnati, man. Him just throwing it up for T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Like, Jameis Winston would legitimately, if he played a full season, he'd be throwing for 4,000 yards on that team. I don't need to see Jake Browning. Free Jameis Winston. I want to see this man play football.
Yeah, for some reason, this whole week, a lot of these NFL media people were, and who I really like and trust for sure, they were pushing this like idea that Jake Browning is like the best backup in the league, that he would be starting on like half of the league teams in the NFL. It's like, what are you talking about? The guy has 5 picks in like a game and a half.
It's bad. It looks brutal.
Like, yeah, like what are people talking about there? The tape obviously doesn't match that excitement that was alleged in the Bengals building. And also when he played well, I mean, he was 4-3 as a starter 2 seasons ago, I believe, when Joe Burrow missed a lot of time. But that Bengals defense was a lot better back then. Yeah. Like, this Bengals team is literally all of their success or lack thereof, whatever, has been on Joe Burrow's shoulders because he's had to do everything, been Superman for them. So nobody can replace or replicate Joe Burrow and his talent and production. So it doesn't matter who it's going to be. There's going to be a monster drop-off because that defense is still bad, and all their success was about Joe Burrow.
Yeah, this is no Tanner McKee situation out there. Worst loss yesterday, Sam Oshtry. Who are you most concerned by the results of their performance?
Falcons scored 0 points in an NFL game. I mean, they lost to the Panthers, not
against
like
the Carolina Panthers.
Team. Yeah, it's not like the Eagles came in and beat them 30-0. They lost to a team that's not going to make the playoffs 30-0. And I picked the Falcons to win the division. So this is just pretty concerning. And look, you can't overreact week to week in the NFL like that. Like, things change, and sometimes guys just don't show up. They just don't have it. Maybe the preparation wasn't there all week. They had a bad week of practice. They just, on the Sunday, they just weren't ready to go. And the Falcons just looked awful. You don't really see a lot in the NFL teams get shut out, but especially not lose 30-0. I mean, the Falcons blitzed a lot, and Bryce Young was really, really impressive. Falcons blitzed 63% of the time, 63% blitz rate, and Bryce Young got rid of the ball in under 2.5 seconds against extra pass rushers. That's really impressive. It's 2.46 seconds. So Bryce Young was really good against the Falcons' blitz-heavy scheme, which I don't think was necessarily expected, maybe. Or, excuse me, the Panthers did expect it. But then you go to Michael Penix on the other side, who had the second worst quarterback outing of any player this season based on EPA per dropback. I mean, he was just really bad, turning the ball over, was just awful on his throws. And I like Michael Penix. That's why I like this Falcons team to win the division a lot. But whatever we saw yesterday, hopefully it was just a blip on the radar. But that was just an ugly, brutal loss. You just flush that tape and you move on to next week with better week of preparation. And just you just can't ever come out with that approach on a Sunday NFL football. There's only 17 of these games every single week. And that's going to be a game when the Falcons are competing for the division or competing for a wild card spot. We're going to be like, we just didn't show up. We just did not want to play football that day. And we lost to the Panthers 30-0. And that could hurt their playoff chances way down the line. So I'm not completely out on the Falcons, but that was disappointing and that was pretty concerning.
Yeah, 12.4 QBR for Michael Penix yesterday, a 40.5 quarterback rating there. It was brutal. And I say this as a significant stockholder of both Bryce Young and Michael Penix. I had some mixed feelings watching yesterday. It's still like, I didn't think Bryce Young crushed it. It still was not like he's fully back on track the way that I hoped. Like, his full stat line for the game, completed 16 of 24 for 121 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He also ran the ball for a touchdown there. this was more of the Falcons completely imploding. And this was a game that kind of changed the way that I view the Falcons. I'm with you that I talk about this team like it's a playoff team. I do, going into yesterday, believed Atlanta was not quite a lock, but like a surefire playoff team. That kind of made me reevaluate things, man. Getting 30-0 against the Carolina Panthers, that's tough. So, yeah, that would probably be my number one answer there. If I'm going to go outside of this, I think we got to bring up the Green Bay Packers. Losing to the Cleveland Browns, to Joe Flacco, man. And I understand it was weird, the block field goal. You can get into the whole conversation. But the bottom line is they did not do enough to win that game. 13-10 victory by Cleveland. I think we may have been a little bit premature in crowning the Packers as this is the biggest NFC threat. Maybe they're not.
I'm still not going to overreact to week football, but it does really show you that the Eagles don't lose games like that. And these top teams in the NFL, like the Bills and Ravens, these teams that are really vying to win a Super Bowl, and there's only a very few teams that are capable of winning a Super Bowl. Those teams don't lose games like that. They just don't. Like, they just don't not show up and have that poor of an offensive performance. I mean, Jordan Love, an 89 quarterback rating, only 183 yards, a touchdown, a pick, too. There's been some ugly decision making from him this year, and I'm a big Jordan Love fan and stockholder because I think he's great. I think he could have been the MVP. He could have been the MVP of the league this year, and he's not one of the contenders right now. But I'm not like off this Packers team because they suffered a brutal loss to the Browns. The Ravens also lost to the Browns early on last year, and that didn't really impact them the rest of the season. But again, like, great teams don't lose those games, and I don't know if the Packers are a great team yet, but they're still a top 3 team in the NFC. I mean, it's the Eagles, it's the Packers, and it's the Rams. So that didn't really change. Again, there's going to be weeks where teams just don't show up, and the Packers just didn't show up.
Do you think the Bucs could push the Packers out of that conversation?
You know, we never talk about the Bucs as a legitimate playoff threat, and it's interesting because
we should.
Like, we should, but we also shouldn't, because what have they done in the playoffs to prove us otherwise?
Beat the Eagles?
With Tom Brady. Let's talk about post Tom Brady. They've done nothing.
No, that was Baker. Baker did.
Okay, my bad. That was the collapse year. Okay, yeah. A high school football team could have beat the Eagles. The Eagles were losing to everybody by the end of that season. Literally any opponent would have beat the Eagles. They're capable of winning playoff games, don't get me wrong, but they're not really capable of going on a run. It's like there's a tier of teams that are real NFC contenders, and the Buccaneers are always right under that. And it's for whatever reason. Like, I think Baker Mayfield's a great quarterback. I think he's clutch, but
he keeps getting better too.
But there's nothing that they've done in the postseason to make a serious run that should prove us otherwise. Like, when it's time to play teams that are significantly better than them, they always lose. So it's like, yeah, they're going to be in the playoffs. They're always in the playoffs. They're always going to win that division. But I'm not ready to crown them as like the Packers, Rams, Eagles tier yet.
I just don't think, I don't think there are teams that are significantly better than them. I think they're in that mix right there. I think Baker Mayfield continues to get better. I think Bucky Irving's leveled up his game pretty significantly this season. I think we should talk about the Buccaneers like they're an NFC threat.
Yeah, it's hard to be there without the playoff resume.
But what have the Packers done?
You're right. No, they haven't done much. You're for sure right. But I trust Matt LaFleur and Jordan Love and that combo as play calling quarterback more than I would Baker Mayfield. And maybe that's not right because Baker Mayfield's clutch.
I don't think it is. Yeah.
I'm a huge Jordan Love stockholder. And the Packers defense is also really good. I mean, yesterday's problem was completely about the offense. Yeah. The Browns aren't good, but they held them to 13 points. If you held any team in the NFL to 13 points as a defense, you're expected to win that football game. Packers defense is elite, and the Buccaneers do not have that type of defense that the Packers do.
But you know who's never putting up 13 points in a football game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man. Like that's going to be a team that's going to blow teams out of the water just offensively there. It's different styles. I'm going to start banging the table that I think the Bucs need to be in the NFC contention conversation.
Yeah, look, the talent is there again, but they've just never made a run. Like they've been just as good this last season, the year before that, and all these years they just never make a run. If they get a good draw, they'll win a playoff game, and that's about it. The Packers last year was really the first year where you came onto the scene, or really a couple years ago, I guess, with Jordan Love. And now it's like, all right, year 3 of Jordan Love, you feel a next step is coming. With Baker Mayfield on this Bucs team, it's just been the same thing year after year with an average defense, but a great offense.
Yeah, they shouldn't have lost to the Commanders last year. I will note that. I'm kind of looking at their playoff history here. They were knocked out by the Eagles in 2023. They were knocked out by the Cowboys, or knocked out by the Lions in 2023. I'm sorry, knocked out by the Cowboys in 2022. Knocked out by the Rams in 2021. They did make it. I mean, with obviously Tom Brady won the Super Bowl in 2020. We'll see. We'll see where the chips fall. I'm just going to put it on the record that I'm a little bit of a Tampa Bay Bucs believer this year. but I guess grossest win yesterday. A team that got the job done, got in the win column, but it did not look pretty or wasn't quite what you hoped. What would your answer to that be?
Yeah, I would say the Chiefs. And I
I
would
like
say the
that.
Chiefs because they didn't really look good against the Giants. I mean, the Giants, Russell Wilson just gave, we talk about the turnover battle wins football games all the time. Russell Wilson just gave the Chiefs extra possessions because of his awful decision making. But the Chiefs did not look good, and that offense is still struggling. Too many times they had to settle for field goals. Harrison Butker missed one too right before the first half ended, I believe. They just don't have vertical threats. Like Travis Kelce is not even a top 20 tight end in the league anymore. He's just not even a threat out there. And I don't even know if Patrick Mahomes' trust in him is probably dwindling by the game that they play. And they don't have any vertical threats without Xavier Worthy, who should be back, and Rashee Rice, who eventually will be back from suspension. But right now, and Thornton he's made plays down the field when
Played
Mahomes
better than I thought
unleashed
he
the deep ball.
would.
Yeah, he obviously had the drop where it was hard to come down with that ball on the ground, and then came back the very next play and had a brilliant catch, just a perfect throw from Mahomes in that moment because it was the only place the ball could have gone where to give Thornton an opportunity to catch it, but also a brilliant contested catch. But other than him, they just don't really have a lot of threats offensively in Mahomes, and they don't have a run game. They've never been established a run game. So it's just relying on Mahomes to do too much, who is awesome. We know how clutch he is, but it's unfair to put all that burden on him. So this Chiefs team, yeah, they didn't go down to 0-3, where we know that's an impossible hole to end up making the playoffs if you go start 0-3. But this is the Chargers division as far as I'm concerned. This is not the Chiefs division. We're going to be looking at the Chiefs in a wild card spot and competing for a playoff spot because this Chiefs team has not looked good. And it's really offensive concerns to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the right answer to the Chiefs with that. And by the way, that game was hanging in the balance for quite a bit of time last night, like basically the entirety of the first half. And if it wasn't the Russell Wilson moon balls that they're relying on, we may get a different story. So I think that is probably the right answer. I did kind of want to throw the Jacksonville Jaguars in the conversation, a 17-10 victory over the Houston Texans. I can't figure out what to make of this Jaguars team, and the Texans are like in a similar kind of boat that why I think the Chiefs is the right answer is I didn't really have full expectations for how that Texans and Jaguars game would go, but I just they should be a team that's sort of in the mix, and I just don't have any confidence in their outlook. And I thought yesterday was a game that sort of showed that.
Yeah, the offense isn't great, and Brian Thomas Jr. has been a little disappointing this year. He had 3 drops.
He's a
Yes,
mess.
he had 3 drops yesterday, but then he comes back for a 46-yard completion, which was a huge gain for them. And of course, Travis Etienne scores on the next play. But still, like those drops and that chemistry between Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas just hasn't been there. And that's been problematic for their passing offense. And they've been able to win games with their defense more than anything. But this was more a reflection on how bad the Texans are to me. I mean, CJ Stroud, what a fall from grace from his rookie season to now. He has a 40 QBR and a 77 passer rating this year. That's towards the bottom of the NFL. That's on par with guys like Russell Wilson and Cam Ward at the moment. Like that's really bad. And it's not all his fault. Again, the protection is awful. He's running for his life. They have a really weak offensive line. He doesn't have a lot of reliable weapons like he did his rookie season. But there's too many negative plays. Like he threw the ball 38 times yesterday in a close game, a low scoring game. You can't do that. CJ Stroud should not be that high volume of a passer. He's just not capable of that. And there's too many negative plays, whether it's sacks, interceptions, whatever it is, they're just racking up for CJ Stroud. So yeah, this Texans team, they're actually the last team, the only team this century to make the playoffs after starting 0-3, and that was in 2018. Wow. It's another weak division, which I think, but it's going to be between the Jags and the Colts. I don't think the Texans are going to be in the mix. And we're going to end up having a serious CJ Stroud conversation next offseason where after his rookie season, everyone was talking him and crowning him as a top 10 quarterback in the league. And now what a fall from grace for him.
Yeah, it just looks completely different. Like he looks rattled. He doesn't look like the same guy. And I was a CJ Stroud guy. Like I was bought in after the version of him that we saw his rookie season. So we'll see. They got to find a way to get that train back on the tracks. Any other takeaways for the weekend that you want to make sure we hit on before we move? Or do you want to get one take for tonight?
Not really. The Pats Steelers game was an interesting one. We talked about most games, but we didn't talk about Pats Steelers. The Pats outgained the Steelers 369 yards to 203 yards. But the Pats had 5 turnovers, and 4 of those were fumbles. I thought Drake May played a pretty good game. He played good enough to win, but there was
the interception at the end was tough.
Interception wasn't good, but that was the only. You turn the ball over 4 times off fumbles, 3 from your 2 starting running backs, Antonio Gibson and Andre Stevenson had 2 himself. It's like you can't rack up those fumbles in those moments, and you can't win the game if you lose the turnover battle that badly. So I wasn't overly impressed with Pittsburgh, but there's another direction I want to go, and of course you were avoiding this game. Because we'll give you one opportunity right now. One opportunity right now. This is it. It's the only opportunity I'm going to give you. The rest of the Mondays, the rest of the NFL season, until that guy's maybe in the Super Bowl this year. One opportunity, Sean Barnard, right now to admit that you were wrong, dead wrong, about Justin Herbert, who is a clear top 5 quarterback in the league.
See, the thing is, Sam Oshtry, I'm never wrong. I'm just early. He can play well.
No, you were late.
No. The history will remember things on my side. Give it a couple weeks. Wait till those playoff bright lights turn on. We've seen Justin Herbert have good regular season games before. He absolutely has played well to start this season. The pressure will come, man. I know what his mental fortitude is. I've seen the way that dude completely folds every time there is pressure on him. The pressure will be ratcheted up.
You say that, and you always point to the playoff resume, which is fine because he wasn't good in the 2 playoff games he's played.
That is too much of an understatement.
But yesterday was his 13th fourth quarter comeback and 17th career game-winning drive. That's clutch. That's resolve. That's mental makeup and having that mental fortitude. Yeah, the 2 playoff games were really ugly, for sure. Don't get me wrong, but a lot of players, Peyton Manning's played really ugly playoff games throughout his career until he eventually broke through and won a Super Bowl.
Peyton Manning hasn't thrown 4 interceptions in a playoff game. Peyton Manning hasn't blown the 3rd largest lead in NFL history.
He's had ugly playoff moments, though. That's the point. And yeah, that's a different Justin Herbert. What we're seeing this year in the regular season even is a different Justin Herbert. They're not even relying on the run game. He's become a high-volume passer through the first few weeks of the season, and he's been incredible at it. That throw that he made yesterday, running to his left as a righty, turning back, and cocking that ball. Someone hit in pressure, contested throw. He was hit in the arm and just delivered a dot to Keenan Allen in the end zone to tie that game up at 20 apiece. They get the ball back. He leads another game-winning drive for a game-winning field goal. This guy has been incredible this year. I mean, right now, it's Lamar Jackson, it's Josh Allen, and it's Justin Herbert. He's been the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL this year.
Daniel Jones.
No, Justin Herbert's been better.
Daniel Jones has been better than Justin Herbert.
No, he has not. Look at the competition. Justin Herbert has played the Chiefs. He's played the Broncos. He's played who was the last guy in the division? They played the Raiders. They played 3. He's played 3 divisional games. It's so hard to play 3 straight divisional games. And I don't know why they scheduled it like that. And he went 3-0. He has been better than Daniel Jones. He's been incredible. This is a new Justin Herbert we're seeing.
Daniel Jones has been pretty impressive, Sam Oshtry. I want the
Titans.
So the thing that I'll interject here, I am giving a little bit of thought to the Madison Beer bump. I do think that there is something to maybe that this has changed the way this guy moves a little bit, that there is a little more confidence in his skin and bones there. So I'm giving a little bit of thought to that. But no, I know how I feel about Justin Herbert.
That's why I'm giving this opportunity, because there is an escape. And that's the only excuse you're going to have for how wrong you were about Justin Herbert. But that's an escape that you can use, and use that spin zone wisely, because it's the only one you got right now. So that's why I'm giving you one escape right now after week 3, but you're not taking it.
I'm not taking it. I'm thrilled that they're off to a 3-0 start. I want to see this team in the playoffs. I want to see what creative ways Justin Herbert can find to blow postseason football games. We've seen the interception game. We've seen the crazy come from behind victory he's allowed. I think this year could be the fumble game, that we might see 6 or 7 fumbles from Justin Herbert.
7 fumbles. How's that impossible?
I mean, he threw 4 picks in a playoff game. I thought that was impossible. So this guy's special, man. This guy is a gifted blower of games, that when the moment gets large, he finds way to make sure it is too big for him. I'm sure that will happen when the postseason.
It's such a small sample size, 2 games, and I'm not gonna. He was bad in both of them.
Atrocious, the worst performer in playoff history type bad.
2 games, super small sample size. You're not going to judge his playoff resume based on that. He's going to emerge as a legitimate, great playoff quarterback with more opportunities, and this is the best season of his career through 3 regular season games, but also he'll be in the MVP conversation by the time the regular season ends, and then we'll see, after the best regular season of his career, what he does in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see. I do see the comment, shout out to cousin Nikki, saying Juan Soto or Justin Herbert, who's more fraudulent. So Justin Herbert's they're different. Like Juan Soto's way better at baseball than Justin Herbert is football. I'll start there. From like a loser perspective, like Justin Herbert can ruin games for his team in a way that Juan Soto just can't based on the sport. I think Soto's got more like loser attitude for like the way that he carries himself than Herbert. But as far as like impacting their team's performance, the answer's got to be Herbert, that he can just derail games for his team. Now,
Look, I'm not going to go into the Juan Soto argument. I don't really know that much about it, but I will say there is no chance in hell you're calling Justin Herbert a loser or fraudulent. He had 2 bad playoff games. It's 2 games. He'll be back and he'll prove everybody wrong this season, even though there will be rightful skepticism entering the playoffs. He is not a fraud and he's not a loser. This guy is incredible. He makes throws that only 2 or 3 guys on planet Earth are capable of making.
We will see how this season, what this season has in store at its conclusion for Justin Herbert. But yeah, I am not getting out of my corner of. I know that truth will bring it out in there. So we'll see. We'll see when the bright lights get turned up. But I do want to wrap up with a little bit of NBA conversation here. So the Kawhi Leonard saga has pretty much dominated the offseason of late, the biggest storyline in really several years in the NBA. I would say that we have some excellent reporting from Pablo Torre on the Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast that just continues to dive deeper and deeper into the paper trail of what seems to be some cap circumnavigation from the Los Angeles Clippers to pay Kawhi Leonard under the table through this aspiration saga. You, Sam, have been pretty defensive of Steve Ballmer and the Clippers of this. Has your opinion changed on this since more information has come out?
A little bit. It wasn't I was saying that Steve Ballmer and defending Steve Ballmer like he wasn't aware of any of it. I was skeptical of the potential punishment because of you need more than circumstantial evidence, and I don't think the NBA would want to punish. Like ideally, they don't want to punish anybody, and they just want to move on from this because it's obviously a black hole on the league. I mean, Pablo Torre has done an incredible job just investigating, digging into this, relentless with it, continuing to find new information. But he's saying this like
and how he drops it too.
Absolutely, and he's a brilliant guy, obviously. But I also am not gonna, like Pablo Torre was saying, this is like the biggest moment of Adam Silver's commissioner tenure. This is would be such an awful moment for the league if they let Steve Ballmer get away with it. There are potential consequences if you do let Steve Ballmer get away with it for what you now allow, for how other teams would potentially circumvent the cap and find creative ways to do that, which is a competitive issue that's not okay. It's not good. But that's a little too far to say this is like the biggest moment of Adam Silver's career. I'm still skeptical of the potential punishment. There's no doubt in my mind that people at the highest level of the Clippers organization were very aware of what was going on, whether they were directly involved, whether Steve Ballmer was in the meetings, whether there's a paper trail actually connecting him necessarily. I don't know still. I don't think that's necessarily come out as good as the reporting has been. But there's no question the people at the highest level of the organization were aware of it, which is a problem. Yeah. And they knew what it was accomplishing to circumvent the cap. There's no question Uncle Dennis, Kawhi's main rep, was asking for things that are just incredibly impermissible in the NBA. I mean, this guy was asking for ownership stakes in franchises. Players are not allowed to own, active players are not allowed to own ownership stakes in franchise. Like, what world are you living in? What Looney Tunes world is this where you even think that's allowed, where you would make that request? So he's asked for some crazy stuff, and it makes sense that the Clippers, logically and rationally, it makes sense that the Clippers would accommodate some of it to end up landing Kawhi Leonard. So I'm no doubt that all this has happened and the Clippers are aware. The punishment is where I'm still a little hesitant to what it will be, because what does it even look like? What's the evidence? What's the level of evidence? What's the burden of proof that the league has to find for them to actually drop the hammer and have a huge punishment? That's where I'm a little unsure of where this all settles.
Yeah, and that's been the most difficult question I've had to answer too, is like, how do you punish this? For a guy like Steve Ballmer, who has all the money in the world, that a fine's not really going to do anything. For a team that doesn't even really have draft capital, that have made a ton of trades, nor have they drafted well in the past couple of years, that's not really the direction. Like, so how do you go about it? I do just want to bring up your overall point. Like, I'm in agreement with Pablo that I do think this is the biggest deal that Adam Silver's had to deal with. I think this threatens the integrity of the entire NBA. That if you have the salary cap is in place for a reason, that if you have teams that are like just ignoring that, as what seems to be the case with the Clippers, and I'm in full position right now that like they just were fully aware of doing this. This was planned. This was intentional. This was direct cap circumnavigation. I think it's circumvention, but I like circumnavigation better there. I'm gonna keep using that. If that's the case, and all signs point to that being the case to me, there has to be a punishment here that other teams are going to do this. And you don't want an arms race from NBA ownership where it's just who has the deepest pockets has the best team. We see that in professional soccer. We see that in baseball where teams like the Mets and Dodgers combine it. That is not what the NBA wants to turn over. It is a good thing that teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder can win the championship, which was the case last year. I bring this all up to say that I do think that this needs to be a bring the hammer type punishment. And the thing
What does that look like?
The thing that I came up with is I think it has to punish both the player and the team. I think Kawhi Leonard should be banned from the NBA. I think I'm completely serious right here. These are two repeat customers with this issue that Kawhi, there's reports.
Kawhi Leonard probably didn't even know about this.
But you're responsible for your career. I don't care that Uncle Dennis is the guy with the seat at the table. You're cognizant of the things that you're getting, of what is hitting your bank account there. He asked for it for the Raptors. He asked for it for the Lakers. And for the Clippers, they got in trouble for this before with DeAndre
It's way
Jordan.
more on the team, though, than it is the player. Way more on the team. You can ask for the moon. That doesn't mean the team can actually give it to you or should give it to you. It is way more on the team. Banning Kawhi Leonard from the NBA. Are we serious right now?
Both need to be punished.
The Clippers shouldn't have given him.
Forgetting this stuff.
But it's the Clippers who gave it to him. They're most responsible. They're the ones who handed him the keys to the castle, which they shouldn't have.
And you don't think they get punished by their best player not being allowed to play for them?
I think voiding Kawhi Leonard's contract is the best thing that could possibly happen to the Clippers.
I don't think you can do that, though, because then he's just going to sign with another team. He's going to ask for the moon and stars.
I know that's why I don't think it's going to happen, because I don't think it's going to happen because of what you're saying is that it actually benefits the Clippers. Like, the Clippers should want Kawhi Leonard's contract voided. It's just been a disaster. They need to cut ties at this point. But it's not really possible with the deal that he's on. So if they void the contract, that's actually benefiting the Clippers. That's not really a punishment. And you're right. We'll just sign with another team for sure, at a much lower cost, because he'll still be getting paid whatever he's getting paid from the Clippers. But so that's why it's really tough, because you can't really do that. Banning him from the NBA that's not even on the table for anybody. Whatever they discover, and that's just a ridiculous proposal. So that's not happening.
Why is that ridiculous, though?
Because it's more on the team than the player. Kawhi Leonard probably wasn't even aware. He
definitely was aware. He had to have been aware.
If you can get extra money from your employer and they're willing to do it, why would you not?
Because it's illegal money. That it's directly against NBA rules that he did not follow.
And who has to follow the NBA rules? The teams.
All parties
are responsible for following the NBA rules. It's them. It's on them. They're the ones who are navigating the cap and proposing ideas for how they're going to pay the pay structure and player options and all this stuff. It's the team.
I think it's both. Like, both parties need to be punished. Both parties are guilty, and both are repeat offenders of this. That both the Clippers as a team have been punished for this in the past. Kawhi has asked for this exact type of deal in the past, which is directly illegal. I think it's important to preserve the integrity of the salary cap. That if you want an even playing field, which the NBA should, and every decision has been based around this, this is a situation where you have to make an example of this. To me, this has to be a bring the hammer type punishment. That's the cleanest thing that I can come with that I do think makes up for all sides.
But it's got to be on the team, because when you're talking about the competitive nature of the league and keeping the competitiveness based on the bargaining negotiations and the salary cap and all that stuff, you want to make sure that teams don't do this again. So that punishment has to be on the Clippers and their team, to ensure that other teams would look around the league at that punishment and say, it's not worth it. Because if we get caught, that punishment is so drastic. That's not about Kawhi Leonard, though. That's about, you make that statement by punishing the team, so other teams look around and say, we don't want this.
So in this situation here, I'm saying Kawhi Leonard can never play basketball, but his salary cap is still on the books there. That would be my double-edged punishment here. That I do think Kawhi needs to individually pay a punishment for this. He cannot be hands wiped clean. You're right that the team gave it to him and the team did this, so they are at the more guilty party in this. But this has to be a two-sided punishment. This just can't be a thing where star players of Kawhi Leonard's level can just say, you know what, I want all these things that aren't allowed, and that becomes the norm. That has to be stopped. I think he needs to be punished too.
I'm not with you, because I don't even know if Kawhi Leonard fully knew what was going on.
But
With this
he had
situation.
to. Like, you can't
Like
convince
maybe a little bit, but he wasn't involved in negotiations. He's not really involved with that stuff. It's his team that does it. I'm sure he was probably aware. Kawhi is so like, I don't really care about that stuff. That's his team handling it for him. That's always been his personality around the NBA. So his team's been problematic for sure. I mean, go back to the Spurs days with
Yes.
the injury stuff and their own doctors they were bringing in and lack of trust they had in the Spurs doctors, all this stuff. His team's been really problematic for sure. But that's a reflection on his team more than and the people he surrounds himself with more than it is him.
It's still got to stick to him. Like, negligence is not a defense here, in my opinion. Like, I don't care that you did not know or weren't directly involved. At the end of the day,
he didn't break any rules. The team broke the rules.
He did. He also
Why would you not ask your employer for the moon? And it's your responsibility, and it's their responsibility to say, oh no, we can't do that, but we can give you this, or we can't do that. If they're saying yes to your crazy ass, that's on the team. If you're trying to get paid as an employee, you should be asking your employer for as much as possible, as much benefits, as much everything as possible. It's on the employer to say no.
Why I think this is unique in that is because this is not a situation where, Kawhi Leonard, like, going back, hey, I want a raise, I want more of this. This was a dude who directly, like, picked his location based on the circumstances, that he came with baggage to Los Angeles. He said, I want Paul George coming with me. I want all these, special treatment and all these factors, private jet, all these things that should not be allowed for star players and are literally illegal. This was the negotiation was the illegal act here. And I think, like, that's important in this context.
I think, I mean, can you admit that's not happening? There's 0% chance that that's happening.
I think probably not. I don't think it's zero. Like,
I will never watch an NBA game again.
Get out of here. Yes, you will.
No, I mean, I will. I'm saying like as a bet, that would be such misery for me.
Okay.
That's such a big punishment for me that I would never watch an NBA game again if Kawhi Leonard is banned from the NBA. Like that, it's just, there's no chance it's happening.
I just think, like, that to me should be on the table. This is a unique situation. There is no precedent for how this should be treated. Like the Joe Smith thing, like that they literally had in writing basically that, which is insane. I think for the defense of Steve Ballmer in this, people are like looking as if there's going to be a slip that says, like, I am going around the NBA salary cap here. You're not going to find that. I don't know how much more evidence you need to see than to just directly understand what is going on here.
Yeah, again though, but like that's the burden of proof is on the investigators.
This isn't a court of law though. Like this isn't the
but
NBA.
It should be treated like that. There should be a belief of innocence until proven guilty. It should be treated like they don't have to. Like Adam Silver doesn't have to treat it like that. He's capable of dropping whatever punishments he wants based on his discretion. But in my opinion, I'm looking at it like the burden of proof is on them, that you should be looking at this like a court of law situation where you have to prove that this actually happened.
I think we got to use common sense. I'm more of a common sense guy here. Like there's just too much evidence in all
I don't disagree with that, but I'm saying for the extent of the punishment, like there has to be some hardcore evidence. There's no doubt in anybody's mind. Like the Tom Brady Deflategate thing, when you look at that situation, that ended with it was more likely than not. That was what the investigation ended. It was more likely than not. And that was just a baloney investigation. Who cares about
this is a bigger deal. This is a bigger deal.
Yeah, of course. Who cares about footballs being deflated? Even though people at the time were acting like there was this massive competitive issue, sure, and the league was at risk because Tom Brady wanted his footballs a little more deflated. But the point is that it was found that it was more likely than not. The terminology for a case like this better be stronger than it's more likely than not that they circumvented the cap through this maneuver. It better be that there is undeniable proof and evidence if you're going to drop the hammer. And if they don't find that, if they find that it's more likely than not, then yeah, maybe duck them a few second-round picks, find Steve Ballmer, which will be pocket change for him. Maybe a first-round pick at absolute.
It has to be more. It has to be multiple
not if you only find it, not if the investigation doesn't find concrete evidence that this 100% happened. And
what would that need to look like for you? What would change your opinion? What would the smoking gun in your mind be for this type of situation? Because I think I have mine. Like I think what I've seen is enough.
It would need to be something that really showed that Steve Ballmer was aware of what was going on. And
like a signed letter from the Los Angeles Clippers organization and donation of $2 million on the same day that he's paid $1.75 million is not enough of a smoking gun for you.
Well, Mark, it wasn't the same day. It wasn't like 2 weeks prior. Or was it the same day?
Something that I think it was the same day. I'm pretty sure it was the same day.
Maybe it was, but Mark Cuban's defensive that. And look, I've been reading a lot what Mark Cuban's had to say in response.
By the way, I think Mark Cuban's guilty of this in the past as well. I'll throw that out there.
Why? Just because of how strongly he's defending it?
Take a look at those Dirk Nowitzki contracts in the twilight years of his career.
Well, why? What about them?
Just if you go down the years, like it's like 5 million, 4 million, 21 million, 9 million, 5 million. And there's all these articles about how much, Dirk is not, sacrificing for the team. I think Mark Cuban took care of his guy a little bit. I don't know that.
Okay, but again, everybody does this in the NBA.
Not to this level.
Okay, but yes, but you're blaming like Mark Cuban, like he did it. Like, yeah, everyone does this. Almost a lot, not almost all, but a lot of star players have sponsorship deals with main sponsors of the team. Like,
not $28 million to do nothing. Not $28 million.
I agree. Kawhi's is certainly excessive, and that's where the red flag comes in. But teams do this all the time. So when you say Mark Cuban did it, teams do this. The teams, like, this is how they do, whether it's a handshake agreement or not. It's not like some unheard of thing for players to have sponsorship deals with other NBA teams. So I'm not like taking the defense of them and completely side with Mark Cuban, but to the point that you said earlier with the wire deposit around the same day, Mark Cuban's defense was that these are quarterly payments. So it's not like unheard of for that. For it's like, oh, right before he got his money, it's not unheard of for that to happen on a day where the wire transfer went through.
Except the coincidence there is that the quarterly payment was already late, and it took until a stimulus check, basically from the Los Angeles Clippers directly, eventually ended up in Kawhi Leonard's bank account. There, like, there's
okay, but again, a signed letter from the Clippers isn't like Steve Ballmer was spearheading this, and he 100% knew about it. Like, Steve Ballmer probably wiped his hands clean by saying, "Do not involve me at all." Like, there's a million things that he signs all the time that he's not actually signing. People are doing for him. People are handling all his stuff. He's an insanely busy guy, and then that's just part of being a billionaire of his magnitude, where you're not in the nooks and crooks of all these deals, which is how he was actually hoodwinked and bamboozled in the first place about this whole experiment with aspiration, and why he donated money to a fraudulent organization.
This is where I'm at is like, I'll put it this way. I don't mean any disrespect to Pablo Torre, but if Pablo can find all this and the NBA now has the leverage of, like, you have to defend yourself here. Like, you have to provide evidence of, like, at the minimum, you got to answer some questions here, buddy.
Yeah, but that's my problem with it. Of course, they're going to talk to him and everyone involved with the Clippers at the highest level and investigate it. He doesn't have to provide evidence. The burden of proof is on the league.
I disagree. I think we're past that.
Adam Silver said that at his press conference too. Like that.
Sure.
That's how any investigations will work, criminal or court of law or not.
But the common sense. I'm a common sense guy. Like, there's too much smoke.
I don't disagree. I'm not disagreeing. I'm only pushing back on the potential punishment. I don't think it should be drastic unless, like, common sense, rationally, of course, yeah, he probably did know. But you can't punish the guy, drop the hammer, unless there's real concrete evidence above circumstantial.
I think you can, and I think you have to. Like, I really do feel that, like, there is too much to this. This has to be a make an example type situation. And even if Steve Ballmer can find a way to completely wash his hands of this situation, whatever happens in the Clippers organization is still a reflection of Steve Ballmer, that he still bears the responsibility for what goes down within the walls of those organization, whether it was your chief of marketing that signed that letter, whether it was the minority owner who also donated $2 million, whether it was Ballmer directly here. This is not a court of law. This is the NBA's entire entity now, and they have to defend, like, the whole integrity of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it'll be interesting to monitor. I'm glad we're going to be talking about basketball moving forward, other than this, because it is a stain on the NBA, and the thing is, it will die down, and that's the thing, because the Clippers are hosting the All-Star game this year. No chance of coming out with a resolution before the first All-Star game and into it,
which is crazy, by the way. But you're right.
Arena. I mean, that's right. Business. That's business.
But I don't know. I just, like, the entire NBA should feel dirty about this. The entire NBA should.
We'll see. We'll see what they come up with. It's going to die down. And Pablo Torre has stayed resilient with it, but it's certainly going to die down as the games pick up and as there's storylines, as Joel Embiid isn't playing the first game and he's ramping up, and all these things happen. We're actually going to be talking about NBA storylines. as
Unnecessary
opposed.
ricochet shot there.
We're going to be talking about it this week. So, as NBA storylines actually happen, this will die down and it won't get as much attention. And maybe that's a good, and that not maybe it is a good thing for the NBA. But they hired an independent organization to lead their investigation, and we'll see what comes from it.
Yeah, and we will see. And I'll just note, like, if there is not a punishment here, you better believe that 29 other teams are going to be investing in some fraudulent organizations intentionally moving forward.
Yes, but also at the same time, even if there's not a punishment, that there will have been a massive investigation, and teams will know that the NBA will be on higher alert with this stuff. They'll be monitoring these deals a lot closer this time, so it'll be much harder to get away with regardless.
But if there is not a punishment, there is now a precedent set for how these situations are handled. So
we'll see. I don't think there's gonna be no punishment. I just don't think it's gonna be drastic.
Yeah, and we will see. We'll keep this conversation flowing. I do agree. I'm happy that we'll be able to talk some on-court basketball product in the pretty near future. But we will see what happens behind the scenes with that. I'm very curious how this investigation goes. Sam, any final words on Kawhi Leonard, the NFL, or anything else before we sign off here?
I don't think so. I mean, media day starts tomorrow for a lot of organizations around the league. The NBA season's back. Like we're going to be talking football every Monday as these weeks pile up, but we're also going to be hitting a lot of NBA. So these shows might get a little long. We might have to bump up the start time. And we'll be here for you every Monday morning.
That's right. So we are back. Make sure you keep it locked to the dial right here on Fox Sports The Gambler. Appreciate you tuning in for myself, Sean Barnard, and Sam Oshtry here. Keep it locked for what's coming up next, and we'll be back. Talk with you next time. Peace.